Good morning and welcome back. Thank you, everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 29th, 2017, 9:30 a.m. Thanks for joining once again for our ACT Weekly Web School. As always, the goal of our web school is just to show you a new feature or little tips and tricks throughout ACT. Hopefully learning something new each week, and after a while, you will be a complete expert about everything that we will have gone through. Today's topic is going to be about this relationships tab here on the contact screen, and it's going to be a kind of quick session, and then we'll take some questions in the chat too. This relationships tab I do not see used too often, but the people that do use it swear by it. It really depends on if it has kind of a role at your company. So basically each of these tabs along here, they can be hidden, so you may or may not see the relationships tab on your layout. You can find more info in my video about ACT Layout Designer if you'd like to make sure that your relationships tab is shown down here. If you're already seeing the relationships tab, then that's great, and we will move on. So essentially, you can go to the relationships tab and say Relate Contact, and the Relate Contact window appears and says, I'd like to relate Stephen Boulden to, and you can choose another contact within the database. And so it's a way that essentially you have links between contacts naturally. For example, if two contacts are from the same company, the most common relationship is that they are linked by a company, and they have a hyperlink between them, and that you can find them under the company side. But maybe if you wanted to say that you had an attorney in the database and that you wanted to show that Stephen Boulden had an attorney here, then you can pick out the contact that you'd like to relate them to, and you can say what their relationship is. So I could say that I'm going to relate myself to Rin McCusker here, and I could be a client relationship, and they could be no, they don't have attorney in here, but I could certainly edit list values and add that in. So I will. I'm using attorney as the example because I do see financial planners use this one often. That they'll have some type of client-attorney relationship in there, and then some optional details that you can type in to help clarify the nature of this relationship. Now, when you look at my relationships tab, you can see there will be a listing of everybody about Stephen. So you can have things like spouses, children. I know a fellow who uses this database for his dog fencing company, and he actually uses the relationships tab to have all the names of the dogs that the contact has and uses down in here. It's kind of an interesting use case that he has. For some people that just hopped in, I can just do another one. If I click on Rin's record here, it's hyperlinked back to his record, and I can move around the database, and I can find different people that are related to others. For example, if Rin was an attorney, then I can sit here and relate all of the people that I know he works with. Or for example, if I know there are many other third-party IT companies that a lot of my customers that we share work with, that this other IT company will handle a company's all of their networking and firewall issues, whereas we're the ACT consultants. But sometimes we have in our database linked up that, oh, this tech group is actually the contact for all of these companies as well. So I think it's a neat little feature that is definitely worth exploring. If you wanted to define two people as being spouses, for example, a lot of people do it the bad way, which would be to try to squeeze two contacts onto one record. And ACT is not designed to have more than two individuals per a contact record. Again, I see financial planners sometimes are the biggest offenders of this, because they'll put, Mr. and Mrs. Smith onto one record as well as all of their children, when in fact each household or each record should be their own name. The household could be a company, and then you can relate them together by the relationships tab. It's a lot more work to do it that way, but it's kind of how the system was actually designed. We do have a question in chat from Jim asking, is there a way of creating relationships based on typical hierarchy structure and also by project? Example, one manager at Sage may have multiple projects for ACT and Swift Page Marketing. Jim, I think your question is really closely aligned with opportunities. so that if you were looking at an ACT opportunity, like I've done these in the past, when you're at an ACT opportunity and you can associate contacts with an opportunity, generally the customer or the end user is one of the contacts. But if you wanted to associate many users from your own company in with the opportunity as well, I would go through and pick out everybody internal and external at your company as well. If you have subcontractors that are involved, then they can certainly be included. If you have people on your own management team, you have engineers that are working internal, everybody that's associated with the opportunity should probably just go under the contact side and be a part of the opportunity section. There's also the opportunity access screen where it shows who's the record manager, the owner of the opportunity. By default, it's going to be whoever created the opportunity, but it can certainly be reassigned. If you really wanted to come up with something separate, you could have like a secondary record manager or a team field, or you could have a drop down that could be a multiple select box with check boxes next to each value. I hope that answers your question, although in order to keep it on topic for our current top topic today, I'm going to go back to the relationships tab. But if you really want to get at me, please email me or call me separately and we'll talk more about it. The relationships tab, though, in addition, we can actually see, so you can design reports on this. They aren't commonly used ones, but you can actually do a relationships report that will show you kind of like a tree in a hierarchy of a certain contact and who they're related to, and get kind of your network web made out of it. That's certainly something we can design. I know today's topic was very brief. I'm trying to go through all the little sections of ACT, but please, by all means, I want to make these topics relevant for you. We're mostly wrapping it up for the day. We could also, there's also a secondary contacts tab. I'll squeeze that one in here too, because this is also a fast tab, and they're very close to the relationships. So the relationship is where you can relate one contact to somebody else that's in your database. If you wanted to show a relationship between two contacts that you already have, a secondary contact could be a way that if you wanted to have, if you didn't want to make separate contact records for the other people. So relationships are for when they already exist, but a secondary contact is if you wanted to just type in a one-line item thing and say like, yeah, I did meet this guy, but you didn't want to make a whole new record for them. You know, I'll make up some company, Jupiter Sales. You can go ahead and fill out some information about contacts, phone, business address, and put it in there, and you can start building a list of secondary contacts in there as well. If a secondary contact, you do enough work with them and at some point you want to bump them up to a real contact, you can simply promote them and it will actually create a contact from this contact, from the secondary contacts section here. Perhaps my example that I said earlier of the guy who has all of the dogs listed under, they're actually better demonstrated as secondary contacts because you don't want to create a record for each one of them. So if I take a secondary contact and promote them, then there they are built as their own contact now for there in the future. After they're promoted, I'd probably want to go through and relate them back again. I'm going to open up the mic for any questions if anybody else has anything more for me. And please, I really would like somebody to suggest future topics for upcoming meetings. I'll open the floor. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining. I hope that you find these sessions insightful and useful, and I will continue to hold them. And for those of you watching on YouTube, please join us live every Tuesday morning. I will post the links to sign up in the description. We will see you all next week. Thank you very much. Goodbye.